Hello and welcome to my channel. This is a video about how I made health a priority in 2025. So in addition to mental clarity, improved health stats, improved sleep, and overall well-being, I was able to let go of 25 kilograms, which is roughly 55 pounds of excess weight in less than a year, 9 months specifically. So perhaps like me, you've been deceived by diet culture in the past or tried all kinds of weight loss gimmicks from the time you were a teenager and they've all backfired. Or perhaps you're doing all of the right things, in quote, and still not seeing the results that you want. Well, hopefully this video will provide some insight into some simple principles that can actually help uplevel your health and have you feeling your best. So let's start with what I didn't do. I didn't spend long hours slogging away at the gym. I didn't give up carbs or count calories. I didn't weigh my food or feel deprived. And I did not use any weight loss medication. For context, I have a 2-year-old toddler that I need to keep up with. So my health habits need to be fairly easy breezy, flexible, and highly doable. For me, it was mostly all about science backed, sustainable daily actions that I could do consistently well. And because I'm a naturally laid back person, it also had to be relatively stress free. So now that I've pointed out what I didn't do and started to hint at what the process was like, let's get more into it. Here is what actually worked for me and has me feeling my absolute best today. Naturally, the first area I focused on was my food intake. And I decided that I would turn to a more nutrient dense, whole foods way of eating about 80 to 90% of the time. A few years ago, a friend of mine had introduced me to the nutritarian way of eating. And if you're not familiar with it, it's an eating plan developed by Dr. Joel Furman. You can go look more into it if you're interested, but essentially, it involves focusing on real nutrient dense plant food and micronutrients and limiting or completely eliminating, actually, highly processed food, excess salt, sugar, and oil. Eating this way in the past worked really great for me and is such a no brainer. The principles are very intuitive. And so I was able to incorporate a lot of those principles fairly easily and still am actually. I wouldn't say that I'm following his plan to a T because I didn't want this to be a short term diet thing. I really wanted the habits to stick for life. I feel like diet culture is so harmful because you might enjoy results in the short term, but as soon as you go back to your regular way of doing things, you gain all the weight back and then some. So for me, I needed to find a way of eating that I could sustain for hopefully the rest of my life. I wouldn't say that I ate a ton of highly processed foods in the past, especially in recent years where I've been getting more into nutrition, but I definitely relied on refined carbohydrates like white pasta and white rice to bulk up my meals. And over time, vegetables definitely became more of an afterthought. After getting married and having my baby, my priority shifted to really being as present as possible, enjoying the moments. And I loved the newborn bubble, but I think I definitely put healthy eating on the back burner a little bit, which is totally valid. I'm not someone who believes in the idea of snapping back as soon as possible or putting unnecessary pressure on your body or on yourself when you're already going through so much and your hormones are adjusting. So now I just feel like I'm at a place in my life where I just have more time and brain space to really focus on health. I eat nature's carbs. Like I said, I don't restrict my carbs, but I focus more on nature's carbs like yams, sweet potatoes, plantain. I'm fairly balanced with everything, making sure I have adequate protein from sources like tofu and tempeh, and of course, healthy fats from sources like avocado, nuts, and seeds, and also incorporating fermented foods for my gut health. As someone who already enjoys cooking and experimenting in the kitchen, this was an easy habit to sort of get into and maintain. If you're someone who hates cooking, though, all I'll say is prepared veg in supermarkets these days can be a big help. There are ways to make things a bit easier on yourself, whether it's reaching for the frozen broccoli or chopped carrots. If it's going to make your life easier, then why not? Now, what makes this way of eating sustainable to me personally is the knowledge that nothing is technically off limits. I didn't cut out all processed foods. I simply reserved treats for rare occasions like birthdays, where I'd maybe have a piece of cake, or meals out with family and friends, where I didn't care if there was a bit of sugar in the food or whether it was higher sodium than I would normally have. Having that flexibility and 10 to 20% margin is so great in terms of sustainability. And what I actually found was the more I ate minimally processed food most of the time, the less I wanted anything that was highly processed or loaded with salt, sugar, and seed oils. I will probably do a video on how you can still achieve delicious tasting food using healthy cooking methods. So if that's something you'd like to see, definitely leave me a comment down below. Now, part of being able to maintain this way of eating is shopping wisely. You've probably heard it said that if it's in the house, you're probably going to eat it eventually. So, by not having highly processed foods in the home, it meant that I didn't have to think much about it or resist any kind of temptation or have any sort of willpower. You just eat what is available in the house. And if it's mostly fruits and veggies and grains, healthy grains and legumes, then that's what you're going to eat. Like a lot of the things I've mentioned in this video already, this next one probably deserves a whole video all on its own. But one thing I did, or one thing I have been doing, is paying attention to my blood sugar and learning more about insulin resistance. There are so many little hacks that you can include on a daily basis that will help you stabilize your blood sugar levels. Um, Little hacks like making sure you include some movement after your meals, or starting your meals with high fiber salads, for example, or even drinking, diluted apple cider vinegar in a glass of water before your meal so that your glucose spike is not as high as it would have been otherwise. Just these little hacks have kind of become second nature to me now, and I believe has contributed to me feeling better. I've seen the difference in the blood work that I had done recently, in which I have done every year. So I have some sort of data to compare over time. And just anecdotally, like what I've experienced and how I feel, usually I've noticed a huge difference there. So again, that's something I can go into in another video in more detail. Another huge revelation from last year was really understanding how my hormones work. From the moment we start our menstrual cycles as women, our hormones affect so much of our lives and well being. Now, speaking for myself, I wasn't taught about the fluctuating hormones and how to care for myself at each stage of my cycle. It's definitely worth exploring if it's something you haven't thought much about before. But now I'd say I eat and move and live slightly differently depending on the time of my cycle in ways that are more intuitive and supportive. So, for example, I naturally have more energy in the first half, and I think a lot of women do. So I might include more movement then and eat lighter foods. But the week before my period, you can find me curled up with a good book, taking things as easy as possible and satisfying the hormone progesterone's need for glucose with more healthy carbs like plantain and sweet potatoes, rather than, sugary snacks or chocolate or just things that I know are not going to make me feel good. And then, of course, incorporating specific micronutrient rich foods that help my mood and general mental state. Part of understanding my hormones also meant understanding how intermittent fasting can be used as an occasional tool at certain points in my cycle to tap into my body's innate ability to not only heal itself, but also to switch between metabolic states of glucose burning and fat burning. Now, Dr. Mindy Pels has done some really great work in this area, and I recommend checking out her books on the topic. So, intermittent fasting or time restricted eating is essentially when you eat within a window of time. It could be 8 hours of eating, and then you have 16 hours of fasting, which includes the time when you're asleep. And you can sort of vary the fasting lengths depending on what you want to achieve. I would say now that I've pretty much gotten close to my weight goal, I don't fast as much. I just kind of tap into it for its healing properties every once in a while. Another really important habit that I focused on was making sure I stayed hydrated, making sure I was drinking enough water throughout the days. It really helped with appetite control and feeling more energized. Now I genuinely notice the difference when I don't drink enough. I'm more sluggish and I just don't feel as good. Now, in terms of movement, I focused on light cardio such as walking. I also followed yoga and strength training workouts on YouTube occasionally, but I'd say daily walks have had the greatest impact. Even if it's just 10 minutes, usually I aim for about 25 to 30 minutes, but even that is enough to make me feel great. It's such an easy way to get movement in, and during spring and summertime, it's particularly fantastic because we get to enjoy walks as a family, and it's always nice to be out in nature. I only recently started getting into more targeted strength training to build more muscle, as that's another crucial area for overall metabolism, health, and well being. So, wish me luck with that. Sleep also played a huge role in sort of up leveling my health. Now I aim for 7 to 8 hours of good sleep. Now that I'm out of the newborn bubble, well out of the newborn bubble, I feel like I can sort of reclaim my sleep again and just make sure that I'm on top of my sleep hygiene. And that involves things like going to bed at a consistent time most days, making sure the room temperature is just right. And there's a whole lot that goes into that that I can discuss in a future video. But yes, sleep is so important because that is really the time that your body is carrying out a lot of its repair. So you want to make sure that as much as possible, you are focusing on getting good quality sleep. I share all of this to encourage anyone who is considering making a change or maybe already at the start of their health journey. Simple, consistent habits centered around whole foods and regular movement you love is so worth it, and you will see the difference in a matter of time. Mind you, I didn't start all of these habits all at once. Doing that would have been too overwhelming, and I probably would have given up after like a week or so. I added each principle as I went along, checking in every few weeks just to see what was working and how I could level things up. So, getting my nutrition right came first, then adding in more movement, then eating to support my hormones, then learning to how to use fasting as a tool, focusing on my sleep and hydration. I'd say doing it in stages this way contributed hugely to the weight loss feeling as effortless as it was. And again, I didn't really go into this for the weight loss. I went into this for the health benefits and because I just wanted to feel better and have more motivation and have more energy throughout my day. And the weight loss was like a nice added benefit. And of course, with weight loss comes improved health stats, as I mentioned at the start of this video. So if you are looking to uplevel your health, I really hope that this video has sort of given you a few starting points to kind of focus on. I hope to share more content like this, diving into health and nutrition. I have enjoyed soaking up all the knowledge, applying it to my life, seeing the results, and I just think it would be really cool to share some of my experiences on here as well. I recently became certified as a nutrition coach. So, this is an area that I'm really, really passionate about. And if it's something you think you would enjoy, then I hope you stick around for the journey. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more nutrition tips, healthy plant based recipes, and more in the coming year. Bye.